This is Zen'n'ish.
Welcome to Zen'n'ish podcast, where we create meaningful conversations about growth, resilience, and mental wellness with a touch of Zen. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Danielle McDowell, LPC, a licensed therapist, best-selling author, and a community leader. We're happy to discuss empowering relationships, setting boundaries, and fostering personal and collective growth. Danielle, we're so very happy to have you here with us today. And I'm hoping that you will share a little bit about yourself, your journey, and what fuels your passion for this work.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as well. I love the questions around like what fueled my passions, because I am very passion oriented in the work that I do, and just in my personal life too. So I started this journey, and I think it's really important to understand that early in life, I was a single mother, and I was a high school teacher. And so I started my career in the classroom, but I shifted into mental health when my own child started having some challenges. And I wasn't sure what was happening, because she went from a kid up until about the age of 11 who was smart, she was social, she was respectful. Everyone was like, girl, what did you do here? Like, you was a teen mom and you just have this kid that's like perfect. And a little ego was like, yeah, this is what I did. This is what I did to get her here.
Right.
And then there was this shift, like a light bulb went off, and her behavior changed significantly. At first, I thought it was hormones, because, around that time we start, having the hormonal things.
Yeah.
But within time, I learned that she struggled with a significant mental illness. And I later learned that her father also had this mental illness when we were teenagers, but I didn't have words for bipolar. Right. And I'm saying it because she gives me permission to say this part of her story, right?
Yes.
But in that time, I was like, I don't know what this is. So I started learning everything about it so that I could help my daughter only. And as I was learning how to be a better parent and get her the resources and the things she needed, I would share what I learned out in the community with other parents. And I realized that in this time, I was really becoming more interested in that kind of work and learning more about mental health. And so I transitioned out the classroom and I got into the field, and I've been in the field for over a decade now in various capacities. And at this point in my life, in my 40s, I am doing the private practice work primarily with couples, but I still like some spicy teens from times.
Yeah.
And I also have a coaching business that allows me to go out and train in the community, because that teacher part of me is still there too. And so I do trainings around mental health, and I do a lot of work with helping women with boundaries and self-esteem and stress management, in a more tangible way that's not therapy. It's more skills based. So, long-winded answer is yes, I'm very passionate, and all the things I do connect to my passions in some way.
That is awesome.
Thank
you. Thank you for sharing that. So you talk about the fact that you work extensively with couples, and I know that you do work around strengthening their communication. So my question is, like, what are some common barriers you see, and how can couples begin to overcome those barriers?
These are great questions, because I think people move into a relationship thinking like, I know what this is. And if we're being honest, like if you don't have a real blueprint or understanding about healthy relationship, you go in with some expectations that your partner may not even know about, or even understand, or even had experienced. And so their definition, insight, and perspective around what healthy relationship might be very different to your perception based on your own experiences and how you decide you want to do relationships. So one of the common things I see is really naming, like, what's the definition of this specific relationship for you? And let's talk about it to make sure we're on the same page. And if there are parts of this definition that's very different for me than it is for my partner, then we got to really spend some time to figure out what are we going to do with this kind of conflict, or wanting to be on two different sides of how we do this part of the relationship. So we spend a lot of time like clearly defining the relationship on their terms, going through working with some of the feelings that come around like defensiveness and feeling like commonly my partner is not emotionally connected to me. I'm not feeling like my needs are being met. And we really like sit down and evaluate, how are you communicating those needs? How are you enforcing your boundaries around those needs so that those issues can be addressed and we can move away from those cycles of blame and avoidance that can often come up, right? And so one of like the core things that happens is teaching active listening, right? Because many times we speak to respond.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of like disconnect happens. And we need people to understand that before you respond to what you heard, you need to confirm what you heard and check to make sure that's correct. Because we hear based on our experiences, right? So someone can say a sentence to me and it would mean something to me that's very different if they said that same sentence to you. And so it's slowing down and saying, what I heard was, is that correct? Helps you to allow your partner to understand what you just heard and clarify and change things that might be a little different, right? And also really like sitting down and thinking through, like, how do I handle these difficult feelings of blame or shame or defensiveness so that we can have conflict that is healthy. Because many times I hear couples say, like, we shouldn't have any arguments ever. And I'm like, oh, that's not how this works, y'all. Like, you're two very different people. You're not going to always agree on things. And some of our best growth comes in conflict. It's not about the conflict. It's about how you engage in it in healthy ways where you still demonstrate love for your partner and you utilize skills to help you get through it. But it's an area that's beneficial and it's necessary. If you're never arguing, I'm also concerned about that. There's something happening here where someone isn't saying what is really happening or what is really bothering them. And another tool that I like to use with couples is encouraging them to have frequent check-ins with each other. Right. And these check-ins can't always be just bad information because nobody wants to sign up for that. We're like, oh, every evening you come tell me everything I did wrong. And so I say you have to balance it out with also having information where it doesn't cause you to kind of freeze up and want to defend yourself every time you're doing this quote unquote check-in. And these like small things outside of just like, are you dating regularly? And are you both responsible for planning dates? And are these dates things that allow you to talk to each other? Like, I love movies, but y'all, like, we can't talk in no movie. I need you to connect. Like, do some connecting there. So those are a few of the things, some of the tools and strategies I use to help couples.
Awesome. So many key points there. I think about my work with couples, and one thing people joke about, but I've seen for me way too many times is that thought of, well, they should know, how to react, or they should know what I would want. And they should, how?
Yep.
You haven't opened your mouth to clearly communicate that. So how are they supposed to know? So, that's some great points there. So I want to touch a little bit on infidelity because I know you also deal with that when working with couples. And infidelity, it can deeply fracture a relationship. So what steps do you recommend for couples trying to rebuild trust after such an event has happened?
Yeah, I love these couples. Many of my friends are like, girl, like my therapist friends, like, why do you
Mhm.
like all the chaos? And I'd be like, that's probably rooted in my own trauma. But I feel comfortable in helping people through this stage. And when couples come in, there's been like this kind of fracture or breakdown in the relationship around trust. We
Mhm.
first identified like through words what that was. And so one time, often when people come, the person who has caused the harm is like, I just want to move past this. I
Yeah.
want to be forgiven. And I want us to like, I acknowledge that I was wrong. I said I was sorry, and like we should move past it.
Yeah.
And I say, well, you don't get to choose when that happens because you weren't the person who was harmed. You were the
Right.
person who caused the harm. And so you got to sit with me in it. And we're going to all sit in the hole together and talk through what happened, give the partner opportunity to ask questions, which
Mhm.
is also a thing that people don't tend to want to do. Like, I don't want to tell her all of this because she's going to be triggered, or I don't want
Yes.
to tell him all of
Why
this.
is she asking me that?
Yep. And I say, look, I'm not saying forevermore that she can investigate you this way or he can investigate you this way. But what I'm saying is, in order to move past this part, you must be very accountable for your actions, forthcoming. Because what you are saying to this individual is that moving forward, I am going to be honest and I won't make this choice again to
Right.
cause this kind of harm. And so if we really about to do that, then be about what you said and allow the questions to be answered
Mhm.
and acknowledge like what happened for you to make that choice. And in the future, if those feelings should come back up, what are you going to do differently with those feelings? And once we really like sit and unpack that part, and the person who's been harmed is like, I'm feeling like okay, like I got what I needed here.
Mhm.
Now let's talk about breaking this down and starting it again. And
Right.
so I always say, like, I want you to envision that that part of your relationship is done. We've closed the chapter on it. We move to the next chapter. And this is the chapter where you have to now redefine what this relationship will be and talk through what you both will do to help fix trust, because it's going to be the responsibility of both of you now.
Right.
And then we'll move forward through addressing the things that weren't spoken, weren't said, the needs that weren't met, so that we have things in place to help those things moving forward and we can continue this relationship in a healthier way.
Mhm.
So it's really just breaking it all down to very like the foundation of like, I love you enough to try to do this really hard thing, but
Right.
we also have to like deal with the thing that's causing us to have to do this hard thing
Right.
and then rebuild ourselves back up. And so
Yeah.
that's how I help.
That's awesome. So, in your work, you also do a lot with empowering women.
Mhm.
One thing that you work with them on is boundaries, boundary setting. And boundaries are essential for mental health. Yet
Mhm.
so many struggle with setting it. It seems like, I know in my work, it comes up in any issue that you're dealing with. Something
Mhm.
about boundaries and being able to set them becomes a part of it. What advice do you have for women learning to establish healthy boundaries?
I love this question. So I do a lot with boundaries, especially for women, because we're conditioned to serve others first,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Especially Black women. When you
Mm.
look at my work, especially like with my coaching business, I speak directly to Black women about this
Mhm.
because we have some unique challenges. Um, Around our experiences that make this even more vital for us, right? Because we are the leading ones who have health issues, like fibromyalgia, these things that happen to our bodies when we don't manage our boundaries and deal with our stress, right? And usually we've been conditioned in society and in some family structures that the women navigate all the things. Like we are making sure we're taking care of the kids. We are now working full-time jobs because of the economy. So we got to do that part too, right? We're supposed to make sure our kids are getting to their appointments, they're at their doctor's visits. And then
spouses.
look, them too, right? And then don't throw in, you got to help your elderly mother or grandmother, right? So there are layers to these things, right? And then somewhere, if possible, you add yourself to this mix of chaos. And I'm always pushing against this conditioning to do life that way and explaining to people that you must prioritize yourself. And self-care is way more than bubble baths and going shopping and getting your nails done. Like boundaries is part of self-care. And these boundaries are important in all of your relationships, not just at work when you tell your boss, like, hey, like, I get paid for 8 hours. I'm looking at 5 o'clock, right? Not staying after I hear you, but my contract says 5 o'clock, right? Outside of those kind of firm boundaries, even at home, you know, telling your kids, like, I am taking this time today for me. Like, we are not going to go running to all the stores and doing all the things because today is mommy's day to rest, right? And you can incorporate these boundaries with your children. Like when I am like saying I need downtime, I need to kind of be still and almost like in a mindfulness kind of state. I'll tell my children, like, we're going to do this together. Like you sit down and my 4-year-old will crisscross applesauce and allow us to just be mindful and grounded, right? And so in setting those boundaries, you can incorporate your family in those boundaries, but you must have them in all facets of your life. And you have to push through this feeling of this is wrong. I am being selfish. This is bad for me to take care of myself. Because if you take care of yourself, you will be a better version for all the people in your life. It works better that way. When you do it the other way, they are always seeing this exhausted, unhappy, I'm now a burden to them because mom has to take care of me and she's stressed out. Like, no, don't do that to yourself or your family. Take care of yourself so you have the energy to give to all the people in your life.
Yes. And it's even modeling that for them. Like, this is how you have a well-balanced life. I just finished facilitating a self-care course, and it was kind of eye-opening to see how many people had an aha moment with the realization that setting boundaries is a form of self-care, just like you said. And it's like, I never really thought about that. And it's like, oh yeah. Most definitely.
And I love your point about modeling because I grew up with women who were super women in my life, right? So my mom did it all. My grandma did it all. And as a young adult, I would often have this inner voice that says something's wrong with you because they could do all these things and you're so overwhelmed. And like they didn't demonstrate for me the overwhelmed part, right? But when I had like vulnerable conversations with them, I realized, oh no, they had it. They just didn't show it or say it to me, right? And it freed up this need to have to be superwoman. And I'm grateful that like this version of myself that I'm modeling to my daughter, who is now a mother with 2 children herself, that like, nah, girl, you don't do all of that and have your kids think that this is what it looks like to be a mother and an adult or a woman. So show them something different. You saw me do something different and you can too, right? I need them to know that all of this isn't easy. And I also need them to understand that they matter too.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Yes. One other issue that I'm sure comes up for you when working with women is the whole body image and self-esteem issues that they're kind of reoccurring challenges for many women. How can women begin transforming these narratives to embrace their worth?
I love this question too, because I think that women are really hard on themselves, but society helps us to be hard on ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Because we look at images and we're told like, not even just around like the weight, but even like age. Like as you get older, you are now not seen as beautiful, right? You're
Or
just
feminine.
yeah, all of that, right?
Yeah.
It shifts. You go from this like young and ooh, like, and they're really focused on our bodies and how we are presenting ourselves in the world. And then a shift happens and we are no longer seeing that way again. And we're like damaged goods.
Right.
And so some suggestions I always say is to think about finding facts to go with your thoughts because we believe what we believe, right? And I can look in the mirror sometimes and be like, girl, like you need to do better. Like, and then I'll be like, okay, so what are some facts here about things that I can do better? And I can find some like, hey, girl, like you didn't gained another like 10 pounds. You can't put your pants on. So maybe you should start walking a little bit more.
Right.
So you can be able to wear that and not even just like a vain, like, because I want to be able to fit the pants. Like I want to be healthier. I notice it's harder for me to breathe, go up the steps. Like I'm worn out when I'm out with these kids and I'm like, I used to could do this and now I can't. So let me be considerate of making some adjustments to myself. But let me also understand, and again, I'm framing this because I'm a Black woman, that the images that they show of what beautiful is for Black women don't look like me, and I am still damn beautiful, right?
Okay.
It's just they is behind and they need to catch, right?
Yeah.
And so like we are all built differently. We have beauty in ourselves, no matter your size or your frame or what you have or don't have. And if you don't spend the time to really like think critically about why do I feel this way? What's the messaging that I keep seeing and putting within myself to make me feel this way? And what areas do I want to change for myself, but not for other people? And what work do to do that. And so when you break it down and you really like critically think about like, why do I feel this way and what can I do about it? Then you can bring about change. But then the next part is to not overdo it. Like I tell people, like to eat the elephant is one small bite at a time.
Yeah.
So don't start saying, well, I'm gonna drink all my water. I'm gonna eat just fruits and vegetables for the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna go into the gym 2 hours a day. Like you ain't gonna do all that.
No.
Right? You're gonna give up real quick. So like find something small. Focus on drinking your water for the next 2 weeks. If you stay hydrated, you'll feel a little bit fuller. You'll eat a little bit less. That's helping us towards the goal. Once you feel like I got the water down, then pick up something else piece by piece to change your lifestyle. And that's how we change and we feel better about ourselves.
Yes. So many gems there. One great point that you made is to take that time to kind of quiet that outside chatter and really critically think about what is it that you want to change, not because of, exterior factors, but what do you truly want? What does your moral compass, what does your soul say you want?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So I want to switch gears a little bit because you do a lot, ma'am.
I'm a true
Yes. So you are into some very innovative approaches to therapy, one of which is the ketamine-assisted therapy. And so when we're looking at this therapy, it's a very unique tool. And I was wondering if you could explain how it works and its impact on mental health treatment.
Most definitely. And so I'll try to break it down in terms that the average person could understand, and I won't get technical. But what happens is ketamine is a medication that has been used forever. But they've noticed that this particular medication can help the brain go into a disassociative kind of state and actually deal with trauma that has happened. And it moves faster than talk therapy, because in talk therapy, we are wanting our clients to be able to tap into what happened to them and process it so it doesn't cause the same like symptoms and challenges. And this medication speeds it up rapidly for most people, right? So it doesn't work for everybody, but a good chunk of people have been able to use this treatment to deal with deep, complex trauma or address some of those symptoms around depression and anxiety. And so it's been really life-changing for some who spent years and years and years in therapy and still felt like this cloud over my life is not going away, right? And so I am licensed in 2 states, the state of Virginia and Florida. And currently, ketamine assisted training is available to residents in both of their states. I also have some training and understanding around psilocybin assisted therapy, which is a mushroom that grows. Right. They're mushrooms that also do the same disassociative kind of thing. I wish we had that legal because that would be more of my preference instead of a medication, because the medication has a little bit more side effects than the using psilocybin. However, there are some states in the United States where you can do that, but you would have to travel there. It's really expensive to do this level of treatment with either one. And so there's some barriers for many to be able to use that. So I hope down the road that the states I'm licensed in will allow us to do that too, because I would rather do that one. But both of them have like the similar effect where it calms the part of the brain that needs to deal and process with the harm and trauma that someone experienced. And so it's been nice to see this help some clients be able to work through things that they haven't been able to do with other treatment modalities. And so that's been nice. It is not something that people should take if they already have challenges with like disassociating, and in some conditions where those challenges are already there. So you do have to meet with not only just a therapist for the therapy part, but you have to be in connection with an actual physician that can talk about the medical component too, because therapists can only deal with the therapy, period. That's it. It's not possible for us to do any of the medical stuff. And so you just want to make sure if you're interested in learning more about this therapy, that you're asking lots of questions early on and ensuring that the person that is the therapist is staying in their lane and the physician is staying in their lane too. But I am excited about these new ways of dealing with processing difficult things so we can have a better quality of life, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Great. I know that you also facilitate racial healing circles. How do these circles create space for like collaborative or collective healing and growth?
Okay. I am a therapist, much like you, and we are in like the 4% of the population of professionals as Black individuals in the field. Primarily, it's white women. Right. And I have experienced my share of like microaggressions in many spaces, from the gamut of "you're so smart," or what's another one? Are you sure that incident was about race? Like those kinds of microaggressions. And I envision it like little paper cuts and they add up. And eventually it's like deep harm from experiencing that over and over again, outside of some like blatant, real racist stuff, right? And in this journey, I've wanted to figure out, like, what do we do about that? And I happened to come across in a community of other therapists that also had the values around ending like racism and doing our work in the profession, collectively, but also with like educating our communities. And so as we were working together in this community, we were like, we should first do it, because if we're going to talk about it, we need to be about it. And so for about over a year now, we've been having our own circles. We've been connecting with resources so that we can facilitate and do this right and well. And it's a diverse group of individuals, all therapists who have different backgrounds and stories, who really sit in the heaviness of things we are experiencing, because we notice that people are clear about like some of the terms, like they know what it is and what it looks like, but the sitting in the shame and the guilt and the understanding how privilege works for all of us,
Yeah.
and like sitting in a heavy space and not trying to like make it feel better real fast has been really transformative. And I think it's also given me the opportunity to better understand that some people in white bodies are pushing back against this because I don't necessarily see it on a day-to-day basis. And so it's nice to be humans and to be flawed and to sit in heaviness and learn and unlearn things, because we are all dealing with
Yes.
the isms. We are swimming in all of it. It's just horrible. And so if we are honest with ourselves and we can sit in community with other people, we can do real healing work there. And it doesn't have to be a group of therapists. Like it can be anyone. I'm really challenging. Like in February, I'll be doing a TEDx talk about collective will and challenging our communities to find ways to do our work, because there is no better time than now for us to do this work so next generations won't have some of these same experiences. And it's not the responsibility of people of color to only do the work. And so I'm really wanting people in white bodies to hold arms with us and get this stuff done.
Yeah. And not only that, like it can't be just people of color. It can't just be the Black women, because if we're, like going back to the microaggressions, there have been so many times when I feel like I'm just talking into a silo, not being heard. There's the head shake. There's the, oh, yeah, 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 but we're going to go with this idea. And, if they were just on paper, there's no way you would go with the other idea.
Yep.
Those types of things. So it can't just be us. Like there has to be that recognition. And it's not always about, a lot of times it's not about placing blame. It's about learning how to acknowledge and then learning how to operate in a more positive way that does acknowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. It has been transformative. I have a friend that I call Family Daniel. Her name is Naomi, and she's a white woman. And I call her sis and everything now. Like we are super close. I think there is no other human who knows me as deeply as she has, and that's just because of this work. And she's been able to know and understand my experience, and me in return know hers.
Yeah.
And that has been so transformative just for me, because I have friends that are white, but like we don't talk about the stuff that we've been talking about in these circles. And having to connect on a real vulnerable, transparent kind of way has made that relationship really important to me. And it has helped me understand that I'm also in return doing that for other white members. And when they see the human in me, when they connect the harm to me, it makes them want to go do things different and bring about that change. And that is huge for me.
Very cool. Yeah. So another facet of you is being a leader within your community. And with your leadership, you build community and build the capacity within the environment that you're in. I know that you're a passionate leader in your community and an advocate for mental health awareness. With all of that, how do you balance these roles with maintaining your own well-being?
So I am very ADHD-like. That's why I thrive in doing a lot of things. But I think maybe in my late 20s, I think it was like I was maybe 28. I had a heart attack and almost died. And at that point of my life, I was not taking good care of myself. I was taking care of my daughter that was struggling, my family, trying to do this degree and all this free labor that you have to do before you can get paid to be a therapist. Like it was the most stressful point of my life. And I almost died and wasn't here anymore to tell the story. So when I had my surgery and I got home, I started focusing on taking care of myself, realizing that there would be no mother for my children if I did not do that. And it started a journey of me learning how to meditate. It was so difficult at first. Like the first 2 minutes, I was like, why do people do this? This is torturous. You're supposed to stay silent and focus on your breath. Like,
Right.
what? I have 1,000 thoughts coming out of my head. And so I started with the 2 minutes. And so now, like, I've been doing it for years because I'm in my 40s now. And if you let me, like, I could probably meditate for an hour now, like, no problem. And even when I'm really stressed in real time, I can, like, tap into meditation in the moment, right? Because I've been doing it so long. And so that has become a part of my life. I try to meditate every morning when I get up, and I try to meditate every evening before I go to bed. It's a good way to start my day and end it. I also like think about like, when do I need mental health breaks, and I take them, right? The beauty about working for myself is I don't have to ask permission. I just like tell my clients, hey, today, like, yeah, we're going to reschedule, right? And I take care of myself like deeply and in a very firm way. And some people at first, like in my family, had a hard time with it because I reconditioned them on how to deal with me and understand my nose. And it was a little difficult at first, but now they get it. And I am the best version of myself now. I love that I can do all these things and still prioritize me. And I just am enjoying life being able to do it this way. And I'm like really wanting to like scream to the world, hey, do this too. Like, this is better living here, right? Like, try it. You'll be surprised. So to answer your question, I take good care of myself because I prioritize it. I won't start or end a day without thinking about what did I do for me.
Good question. That's a very good question. And everything that you described, it's another way of setting a healthy boundary. Just letting them know that I can't help you if I am on E. I just can't. And I tell you, I had the same experience when starting with meditation. The first 2 minutes, I was like, I think 30 seconds in, I was like, okay, so what do I want to have for lunch? But then once you get the hang of it, it takes you to a whole nother place where, like, I always feel like my whole soul can rest. Even if it's like a 10-minute break, like, if we're in a conference all day and I find some place to just go and have 10 minutes, it can like totally revitalize you and like ground you. And you're like, okay, I can finish out this day.
Yes, indeed.
So for those interested in, because I know that you also work with building business, especially looking at therapy-based businesses. For those interested in scaling like a therapy-based business, what are some strategies you've found that have been most effective?
Know yourself. Understand your strengths and your challenges. You need a team. Can't do it all by yourself. Even in the bootstrapping stages of things, I was creative. I thought about like, what are ways I can access people to help me do things. And one strategy I used was, I was like, I need someone who can help me with the marketing part, and maybe do some of the administrative parts. And so maybe like building my website, like social media posts, like those things. I thought, hey, there are college students all around here in colleges who need opportunities to get the skills so they can have on their resume that I worked with this company and helped with these things. And so I reached out to schools, was like, anybody willing or wanting an internship, right? Some of them were like unpaid because the school had limitations on how I could pay them, but they still was excited to be able to connect, ask me questions, especially those who are really interested in either mental health or entrepreneurship, because they would get free mentorship from me. In exchange, they would help me with some of the things that I could do, but it caused me a lot of brain capacity and time, and they could easily do it. And as I get older, like, I don't know what the new phrases and things is. They do. They understand like the back end stuff around engagement and what is working. And it worked for me to be able to help other people and be creative in the way that I was using my time. And so also having like other systems in place that help with things like streamlining, keeping up with like my profit and loss sheet, using an app that if I use this one card, it documents all my stuff. Yeah. And I just got to go in there at the end of the year, and I should do it quarterly, y'all, but I said ADHD. It's not fun.
Right.
For me. Right? But go in it and fix it later, and it's all there. And it's not like me piecing together what I did before. And so also systems like my EHR, which I might move away from, and I'm not going to say their name because they might try to sue me, but because I don't like some of the things they're doing now. Yeah. So I'm looking for those systems. But I really think creatively. I get really still. I think about the things I do well. I put my energy into the things I do well. And then I find people to do the other things. Mm. And I give back to these people. So I'm not telling you go use people, y'all. I'm saying like you must give people something back in return, right, and have the conversation. And anyone who's ever helped, I've always said, like, I want to be forthcoming. These are the things I'm seeking for you to do. And I'd like to hear from you what you're seeking from me so that I can make sure that I'm doing what you need. And in return, I'm getting what I need to.
Right. Full disclosure bartering.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now you got to be creative when you don't got no money.
Yeah. Amen. So, Danielle, for listeners who want to explore these topics further or connect with you, what resources or opportunities would you recommend?
I have a website that's my name. It's DanielleMcDowell.com. You can find me there. If you're looking for therapy, I would still suggest find me there, but tell me what you're looking for and I'll move you over to the private practice. Private practice, I only can work with people in Florida and Virginia. So just being very clear and transparent about that. I'm also on social media like Instagram. My handle is @achievablegreat. So I'll spell that out because it's a little different. ACHIEVABLEGREAT. So if you go to either my website or find me on Instagram, you can stay connected, and I'm very supportive. I want you to know that it's really important for me to help connect people to mental health resources. So if you're one that's like, I know I need therapy to process, but I don't know where to start, I help people. I spend hours each week connecting people to resources. So if I can't be the therapist to help you, I'll help you find the therapist that can, because I really value and understand the benefit of us taking care of our emotional health.
Wonderful. Yes. Danielle, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and creating a space for growth and healing in today's conversation. This has been delightful.
It has been delightful for me too. I love any opportunity to talk to other people, especially on topics that I'm very passionate about. And I feel honored to be able to share on your platform to your listeners. And thank you. Thank you too.
Thanks. And thank you for tuning in to Zen'n'ish podcast. If today's episode inspired you, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review.
Zen'n'ish copyrighted podcast and website offer opinions of Dr. Lakeisha Hudson, Dr. Kiki Zen'n'ish LLC, and or guests. Content is for information only, not medical advice. Consult a professional for health concerns. Opinions are personal and do not reflect workplaces. Privacy is a priority. All names may be altered for confidentiality. Not for legal use. No guarantee of accuracy. No doctor-patient relationship established. For errors, email 423.4.doctor.kiki@gmail.com.